coming and got it. And we did have one person who canceled kind of last minute. So if anyone here who is not signed up has work that aligns with the theme and would like to show at the end, we will likely have time. So actually, why don't I just start tonight is show and tell, the theme of which is the I almost called it the lost and forgotten. Is that what my theme was a few years ago, or is that this theme also? um, let's see. In any event, we are here tonight. Vint is our mighty host for the evening. Theme inspired by our current exhibition at OPW, the Raymond Cooper show. And but first, announcements about EPCO from Vince.
Let's see. Speaking of Raymond Cooper, so if you haven't been down to see that exhibition at OPW, I encourage you. It really is something remarkable. And we're having a Q&A with Asia Cooper, Raymond Cooper's daughter, on April 5th. And that is in conversation with Liam O'Donoghue from East Bay Yesterday, who is the link in all this for us. He connected us with Asia Cooper. I think that is probably sold out, but take a look at the
tickets left.
And then the closing reception is on the 13th, Saturday the 13th, and from 3 to 6. So again, lots of good vibes, good photography, good friends. I hope you will all come to that, and I hope to see you there. And then a new tranche of workshops were launched this week. So I'm just reading off of Anita's newsletter that went out today. So if you didn't get the newsletter, that's where you want to be. But just look at the newsletter. There's a whole set of new workshops that were released. One taught by yours truly, one of the darkroom refresher workshop. But we're just absolutely going great guns with workshops this year, and some real exciting teachable moments going on. So I encourage you to check out the workshops, and we are fortunate to have Beatrice tonight, who's one of the instructors in one of the latest workshops released in this current tranche. And
what's going on?
Yeah, photo walk on the 7th, this Sunday, at the Cameron Stanford House here in Oakland. So I've always wanted to see that old house by the lake. So the photo walk is starting there, hosted by Anita. And then the gear sale the weekend of the 20th and 21st. So if you are a paid up member, you get early access on the 20th, and then it opens to the public on the 21st. So that is a big pile of donated cameras, lenses, an amazing donation of every sort of camera bag from Peak Design, one of our sponsors.
Wow, cool.
Yeah, a pile of boxes arrived from Peak Design today, as tall as me and wider than me, believe that or not. So that's one of the features of this, but there's all sorts of digital and film cameras, darkroom equipment, everything. So hope to see you all there. That's pretty much everything in the newsletter. So
there's also the closing exhibition or closing reception for the current show, which is a week from Saturday.
Yeah, I thought I had mentioned that closing on
you might. Oh,
yeah.
I wasn't listening. I'm just kidding. I was listening. I'm always listening.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, and if you need any follow-up on any of those things, it's on the website. If you're not getting the newsletter is great, has all this information. You can either go to epco.org to sign up for the newsletter, or if you're at OPW, there's always a sign-up sheet there where you can sign up. So, and those of you who don't know me, I'm Vince Donovan, co-executive director of East Bay Photo Collective. And together with the other co-executive director, which is Anita Gay, and together with Jenny Sampson, our board president. We try to keep things running such as we can. This theme, as Jenny mentioned, was inspired by the Raymond Cooper show, and I was one of the curators on that show. And part of the process that we went through was going through the boxes of his archive that was remaining, and we did an initial scan of every single image, all of the negatives, all of the slides, all the loose prints, Polaroids, thousands and thousands of images. And it was a very interesting process to look at another photographer's life, really, and see their successes and their mistakes, to see their experiments, to see the images where they are feeling confident, to see the images where they're feeling less confident, the images where they're connecting with their subject, with their project, images where they're not connecting. So it was really a very emotional experience to look at Cooper's work at that level of detail, really at a level that he would never have intended, but it was necessary for this project. And it, of course, brought me tremendous connection with Raymond Cooper, because again, I could sort of feel the emotions through his camera and through the slides and the negatives and through the scanner and through the years. And I could sort of really connect with him as a photographer. So the idea was, well, what do our own archives show? What connections can we make if we go back and look at maybe some old projects and old work that we haven't looked at for a long time? So that's the idea. Anyone have any questions or comments just about the concept or about Raymond Cooper? Anyone seen the show? Have any thoughts about it? Raise your hand if you've seen the show. Yeah. Um, so if you, again, hope you do have a chance to come out or come to the closing, because it really is a remarkable show. So I will kick it off. And it turned out when I was working on this that going through Raymond Cooper's stuff was much easier than going through my own stuff. That there, I connected with him, but there also was an emotional distance. It was someone else's work. And so I did try to go back through some old work. This is all over 10 years in the past. And I found that it was a struggle to look at this old work and try to engage with it and to connect with it. In general, I don't have a good memory. It's hard for me to engage with the past in general. And so in one way, these photographs did what we want them to do, is that they did make the connection, and sometimes the difficult connection for me. And so I'll just go through these. These are just some projects. Some were commercial projects, some were personal projects. And we'll just take a look at a few of these and I'll talk a little bit about them. Please go ahead and jump in at any point if you have some questions or comments. So this first set are just a few oddball projects. Oops. Sorry, give me just a sec. There we go. That's ready. And I tried to sort of pick out the most oddball ones. Here we go. So this this was a project I did for the cameraless photography exhibition at Rayco. God knows how long ago this was, but what I was doing was taking some haiku from my notebook and making contact prints onto Polaroid sheets of Polaroid film, Polaroid prints, and it just seemed goofball at the time. I'm all right, put it the other way around. At the time, I was very serious about it. I thought it was a great idea. And now I think it's really strange. But I did do it. And so this is a haiku in Spanish, my one Spanish haiku. This is, again, just these were just taking notebook, putting it onto uh, Polaroid sheets of Polaroid film. I think probably with a contact sheet on top. And because it's a positive material, you get a positive image just right back. So kind of a contact sheet. Um,
Can you explain that again, Vince? I'm kind of confused how
I'm
that.
kind of confused too. I don't really remember. Uh, I was in some sort of weirdo creative frenzy. I was really into haiku and really into Polaroid film, and this is what resulted. And a few of them got into the show. And this was Fuji Instant. The two of them are color, Fuji FP100C, and two are black and white, Fuji FP100B. I did these in the darkroom at Rayco, so exposing them under an enlarger so I could control the amount of light that was coming through. Um,
Onto a piece of Polaroid
uh,
film?
yeah, yeah,
Wow,
don't ask me.
pretty cool.
Yeah, it worked. I got actual images. So yeah, at the time I thought this was a very serious thing, and now I think it's kind of goofy and it's interesting to look back upon. I haven't thought about it for years.
I don't think
Uh,
it's goofy.
okay, thank you. I'm gonna move forward to some more Polaroids. These are 8x10s that were taken. This was when the Impossible Project reissued some 8x10 material, and we got some of it at Photo Booth. So I got to play around with it, and of course, like all Impossible Project material at the time, it was very flawed, but you know, the flawed in interesting ways. So we had set up just the processor and stuff, and probably it was late at night, and we were had a party going and just shooting some of these 8x10s. So it was really rewarding. Um, and like all
Mr.
sort of
Davis,
alternative process, it's pretty interesting to see where the flaws are, where the imperfections are. Um, a lot of folks know Danny, good friend. Uh, this is one of the folks that worked at the shop, so the exposures are coming across quite well. But then all this great texture is going on in the back. And again, it was probably 2 in the morning doing these. This is another Polaroid from a good friend. This was on a cover of Instant City magazine, and that he had a story in. And just another experiment that turned out quite well, I think. And it was the noir issue of Instant City. So they had a bunch of noir style fiction. And so this is obviously a in-camera double exposure on Fuji FP100C Polaroid. I have a lot of pictures of Anita. I have a lot
It's
of
baby
Polaroids.
Anita.
I have a lot of
That's
Polaroids
fun.
of Anita. Uh, every picture I have of Anita is my favorite, but this is my favorite. Um, and let's see, I'm gonna stop for just a second and move to another section of material that I had really forgotten about. This is a combination of color, black and white, of some bike messengers that were going by, and dragged them um, into the studio. And this, I think, is shot with a Diana. This is probably with a Bronica SQ. And at photo booth, we always had lights set up, so it was a really nice environment that, again, you could drag someone in off the street, or if someone came in that you wanted to take pictures of, you could just shove them in front of the lights. And so these are Bronica SQ, probably Tri-X. This is with a Diana. I don't know what film. So yeah, just kind of a spontaneous moment. Yeah, this guy had some interesting tattoos. And this was dragging the shutter a little bit with that Diana, because you could set it on B, but also had a hot shoe, so you could trigger the regular studio lights, but also mess around with the ambient light. I still have this Diana. I don't use it as much as I should. All right, that's that set. Gonna quickly jump to another set. Yeah. This was a paid gig, and at the time I was really unhappy with it. So this was shooting Impossible projects, color film, for a shoe company that I don't remember which company. And Impossible Project, the first generations, was just so hard to work with. And so there were a lot of rejects and a lot of problems. And at the time, I remember kind of being unhappy with this, but now looking at it, I really am happy with these. And so they're kind of more interesting than I remember them being. And these gold frames are definitely working for the kind of fashion approach. And then this was a final shot from that session, not on Polaroid. I think this was just on a digital camera. And let's see. Whip through another one. This is another paid gig. I did a bunch of these. And interestingly, these are all Polaroid gigs, but I did a lot of Polaroid back in that era. So I did a bunch of these setting up at an event. So we'd get, hired to set up at an event, set up lights and Polaroid camera, and people could just come up and get a portrait. And I don't remember what company this was, but it is nice to see these faces. And I really love taking portraits. I love taking pictures of people. The chance to spend an evening 2 or 3 hours. And you could see, they're not all perfect. Like some of these are blown out. Some of these might be rejects, but the chance to work with dozens of folks and do a portrait of them, I really, really valued that experience. And going back and looking at these pictures now brings a lot of that back, just because I love looking at faces. I love taking portraits. They were probably better than they appear. They might have scanned a little hotter than they actually were, because I don't think I would have consistently blown them out this much. But going through this set really made me happy again, just seeing faces, seeing the variety of human faces. This is a tech company, so there's not a ton of variety. It's kind of monochromatic. They're all kind of the same age and the same race. But yet there still is a lot of joy there and a lot of humanity. So this was just one evening at some crazy event. And it is kind of fun when people sometimes pull out a little more of their personality beyond just the kind of standard, smile. So there's probably hundreds of these. This might have been me squirting them with a squirt gun. Not entirely sure.
That was a good one.
Yeah. All right, enough. I have no idea what company this was, if it even exists, but where are they now, 10 years later? And then one more little set that I'll show you before I hand over the keys to someone else. I think this was another paid gig with a band called the Soft White 60s. Just some PR stuff for them, maybe for an album. I also did a little video for them that same year. And again, this is Polaroid material, probably FP3000. And then this is the negative side that was scanned, because you get a little more kind of interesting texture out of it.
Are these 8x10?
No, I think they're just regular, 2¼ by 3¼
These
Yeah,
are
I'm pretty sure
cool.
this is the negative side. So you get some really nice texture and a lot really good tonal range.
Amazing.
And, unfortunately, this film was discontinued. It's not available anymore. Yeah, and this tells you it's the negative side because that solarization.
Mm.
So yeah, lots of faces. Are they all together? They think they're tough. Maybe they are.
Band shot.
Mm. I think that is it. A couple more. She's their publicist. So there you go. Quick trip to the past.
Those are great hits. Interesting to see.
Lots of portraits, lots of experiments. And let's move forward into the future. And first in line is Hannah. So Hannah, please.
Thank you. Taking it
And
back to the past though.
I need to, okay, you should be able to grab.
Oh, okay. But yeah, the timing of this theme is so perfect. I was just home in Iowa for winter break and started trying to collect all of my photos that I've taken in Iowa over the last like decade and try to make a project out of it. So yeah, I'm gonna show some of those, and then I also have some literal lost negatives that I can't find. I've searched everywhere, but I have the scans. And just as I was going through like all of like my hard drives and looking at all the negatives and stuff, I was like, I had a moment where I realized like this is what I love about photography is when you see it all put together, it like just helps you understand life, your life in general. So I'm really into editing right now and trying to like order my photographs to tell a story. So any feedback on that is helpful. Let's see. Here we go. These are from, most of these photos are from like 10 years ago. So it's not my best of all time, but they're very nostalgic. Let's see. It's taking a while to load.
It's really building suspense.
I know. How do I go into, let me see if I can.
Are you,
Let me see.
I'm not recognizing actually this window.
Are you able to see anything?
No. Why don't you go to
Let me see.
the maybe if you do a list view and then you highlight them all and open
Okay.
preview
Yeah.
and then share the preview window. Maybe that will work.
I used to be so good at Zoom and now I'm not.
Yeah,
Thank
we're out of practice.
I can tell I don't Zoom as often as I used to. Okay.
I think it's good to be not good at Zoom.
I know.
Yeah, it's a sign of character.
Okay, we've got them open. My computer is just moving slow. Right. So,
Yeah, we can see.
okay, cool. Should I keep it like this or how do I go into full mode?
I think if you go to the very top and you do, I think it's either view full screen or slideshow, and then you pause it and you advance it manually.
Okay, let me see.
Oh, enter full screen at the very
Oh,
bottom. Try
sweet.
that.
Okay, thank you. Does that look good?
Yep.
Yeah.
So this is my like Iowa folder. This is actually my grandparents' house. No, my great grandparents' house.
Wow.
And so and then my mom and that side of the family, all of the relatives grew up on this country lane where everyone lived, had neighboring farms, and this is in southern Iowa. And the house is still there, but it's abandoned, unfortunately. But I think it's cool that it's still there. That's my dad working on my uncle's house in another more in like northern Iowa. This is just some abandoned apartment I snuck into. It was kind of crazy. It felt like I went up into it and it looked like it hadn't been opened since like the 1960s or something. It was like everything was still just sitting there.
Where is this, Hannah?
This is in Iowa.
Wow.
Yeah, they were renovating an apartment at the you know those little town squares that are super quaint. It was like some apartment up above one of the shops and it was open and I went up and this was up there.
It's a great window.
Yeah. It looked like it was like a time capsule that was just opened or something, but
Yeah.
a little destroyed,
Huge
obviously.
ceilings.
Yeah. This is the inside of my dad's truck. He's a bit of a hoarder. So those are a bunch of chorizo stickers. He had this sandwich that he liked from McDonald's that they stopped making.
Wait,
Uh,
was the blue tape like, was that a radio station that he liked?
oh, I can't.
Eight.
Actually, that might be a radio station or an address.
Oh,
I
because it's like
can't tell.
W something. I don't know.
Yeah, WX something Bobby. I don't know. It's either, I feel like it's either an address or a radio station. This is when we spent one summer trying to locate this old rail bed, this old railway bed. And so we went and we got this map and we took it. The man with the suspenders is used to be like, he used to work for the railroad. And so he was helping us to really try to pinpoint where this railroad used to go through. And it just felt very like a very Midwestern picture to me, like with the bib overalls and the like the type of coffee carafe that's on the table and the like Formica table.
Mhm.
Let's see. Oh, whoops. I think I skipped one. That's my mom with 2 cell phones. Dead coyote. This is my uncle. They only recently stopped using a wood burning stove to heat their house. In the last few years, they got like geothermal or something, but up until then, they had just a wood burning stove in their dining room, and that was it.
Wow.
Yeah. This is the railway where the railroad used to go through. We found it.
Looks
And,
cool.
and some of these are my kind of first rolls of film that I was shooting from. This is like maybe 8 years ago. This is like an old hotel. It's not in use as a hotel anymore, but the story is when Jack Kerouac was writing On the Road, he stayed at this hotel because he came through this town.
Does that say, I'm sorry, and does it say strictly?
It says strictly modern.
Wow.
That is also a very cool building. It looks like the window above the door is slightly curved.
Yeah, you're right.
What a
I think
cool
that's
building.
crazy if it is. That would be hard
Beautiful.
glass to replace.
Yeah.
And then you've got snow, right? Flinging, or is this double exposure?
No,
What's going on
it's
on the right?
both. It's snow and double exposure on accident. So yeah, like trying to work on my kind of editing and sequencing, because this one is I put the grass self-portrait after the snowy one.
Nice.
That's a timer, self-timer. Let's see. The bean field, soybeans. That was like a wet party bus, but I love the like fancy clothes and then the bush light and a bottle of Fireball.
Wow.
My uncle's barn. And that's this one's the last. I just it like at first I had when I came across this photo I had kind of remembered it, and I always just thought of it as a throwaway, but what is in like what I did get in the frame was like it's just you see so much of it driving through Iowa, like that's like that is what you see for hours.
And such a cool like color thing going on there with the yellow and the orangey red.
Yeah, I kind of like it.
I feel like when you blink and you like make up an image in your mind, that's how I feel like the left half is
Yes.
moving in the car.
Oh, I like that. Yeah.
And
It's
I don't know
obviously
if it
like
was,
What's that?
uh it's obviously something that like doesn't happen anymore in the age of digital, and then even with better labs where you would get prints back or photographs where it was half of one picture, half of the other, um like kind of, or something like this where like half of it was exposed, as the leader, that just it immediately makes you feel part of the actual process of taking the photograph.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what I'm noticing is like the more I look at it, you can actually see a shadow or a hint of the other half of that silo or whatever
Oh
it is.
yeah. It is coming
Um,
through a little bit.
just a little bit because I at first I noticed the wires going across or whatever the beams, and then I
Yeah.
so there's actually like a ghost image under there.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't notice that. Good catch. And on Zoom.
But
Uh,
it is like there's something really wonderful about it because it does, like Brian, what you were kind of talking about, it brings us back to the time of film, like the very like, I mean, so many of us shoot film, but it I don't know, it's just yeah, it at first glance is a throwaway, but then like I don't know, it kind of makes me feel really nostalgic of the process, of slides, of or whatever, like of the imperfections and weirdnesses that happen, with film.
Yeah. Yeah,
and I
that's
feel like this, and go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt
oh,
you.
I was just gonna say that was what was fun about going back through photos is because there's so many that I just were throwaways to me, and then I look at them again and I'm like, wait a minute.
Can you pick another one out of the set that was a throwaway at the time and then you went back to and
Yeah. Oh yeah. There were so many. I would say that I thought that this was a throwaway until
wow.
yeah, I thought it was a throwaway until I showed it to my friend and she was like, this was awesome. I was like, really? And then I think I thought that I mean, so many of these I just didn't like I probably thought this was a throwaway because it was kind of blurry and like whatever, but when I look at it, 8 or 10 years later, I'm like, oh my God, this is so cool. Like my dad's like up so young and like up on a roof and the nostalgia sets in.
Mhm.
I think also the context, like the pieces all fit together really nicely.
Mhm.
There's a mood to them, and this has a really striking mood to it.
Mm,
And the pose of the person standing there, the mystery of it, and then the light, that time of day
mm,
has a really, really striking mood. But a lot of these have a striking mood.
that's great. Oh, and I'm just realizing that this is the pipe or whatever, the little chimney for the wood burning stove.
Mm.
Oh, that's the house
Yeah.
that only used the wood. Wow, that's a major chimney for that. That's fascinating.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's external. It's not going through.
Yeah, it's coming. It's like
Uh,
coming out of the window. Now that I remember it, yeah, because it's like right by a window, and then the tubes like go out the window and all the way up.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we should move on. Hannah, thank you so much. That was, yeah, really great. Very, very moody. A lot of moodiness.
It's moody. Thank you.
Moodious.
Okay. Speaking of moody, Brian is next. Brian Shapiro,
Oh, what do you say, Moody?
Minister of Mood.
Let me share right over here. I'll see that Lightroom. First time I've ever actually used the slideshow module here. But
There's a
so I
full
took
screen
the
mode
Lost
though,
and
right?
what's that?
There's a full screen mode.
Yeah,
It's preparing a slideshow now, it looks like.
Oh, it's doing it. Okay.
yeah. So I took the Lost and Found theme somewhat literally, and I have in the past been an archivist for photographers' estates and for artist estates, preparing stuff after the artist has passed away to go into an archive. I also will say I'm a bit of a perv when it comes to other people's privacy. Um, I'm not saying that I would actually do this, but I've had a lot of experiences in jobs where I've been working on a shared computer by myself a lot of times. And a lot of times people forget to log out of their Gmail accounts. And I'm not saying that, when I was much younger and was bored at work, would sometimes sneak in and read accounts. In college, I worked at this, very fancy gym downtown, and the two other people who worked at the front desk, were the two kind of kids who had kind of, were always high on designer drugs and stuff, and always forgot to sign out of their Gmail accounts, so they were constantly chatting back and forth with them, and I would just spend hours upon hours of reading their chats in Gmail because they were the worst. They were like always admitting to stealing from the job, and I would never call them out on it, but they were just ridiculous. And I will say that's something that hasn't stopped as I grew older. Please log out of your accounts because I'm always going to be tempted. This is actually a little bit more of an analog way of me doing this. A couple of years ago, as part of a job working at a different darkroom, I was cleaning stuff out after COVID and found a couple of boxes of negatives, the binder negatives that people use that hadn't been thrown out. And it's all from one person that I've been slowly going through and scanning and making prints out of it. I have no idea who these people are. This isn't. I know for a fact that the people right here are not the photographer. Just happened to be the first ones that came up. But a whole bunch of photographs from the early 2000s, of something I have no idea about. I know that they have a girlfriend. They have an extended family that they took a couple of trips, one to Kyoto, Japan, one to Sweden. And I've just been going through it, and I have to say I really am impressed by this one photographer, but it's almost very perverse way of looking at this because I'm just kind of obsessed with this person's life and these intimate moments that I don't know if I should be looking. A lot of the photographs or a lot of the negatives, I will say, I don't work with because they're much too intimate, and I'm just on the line of that. I'm really hoping that going through these, that none of you say, "Oh, I know who that is," or like, "Hey, those are my negatives," just because I feel like, once they find out about it, they're going to be kind of angry about it. But we actually, there we go. I haven't made, any major corrections to these. Are you serious? This is the worst. Thought this was going to work much better, but and kind of going through these, there's a lot of things I really like just because they're kind of a different a different way of viewing things. Part of it is that these are from the early 2000s, which I still think of as, hey, that was high school. Like, that was just a couple of years ago. And it's, no, that's 20 years ago. That's, it's long enough that styles have definitely changed and have, as this has become a time capsule, basically. I'm going to try one thing right here. And then also, something I really am fascinated by is that, these are just kind of like the random negatives that I'm picking up. I've scanned, I'm a completist where if I scan something, I have to scan the whole sheet of negatives, not just, the ones I like. And so going through here, you kind of get timelines going and kind of get, different small intimate acts coming along. Sorry, I thought preparing this all, and
Yeah, it seems like it's slowing down actually. The
yeah, hold on one
slideshow.
second.
Yeah.
Here we go. Let's do it. And so, I'm kind of forced to kind of come to my own conclusions about a lot of this stuff, a lot of these images. And kind of make them my own. There's constant characters that like reappear. And I have just enough dates to kind of put things together in a little bit of an order, but not enough information to really suss out this person's life. You know, post Vivian Vivian Meyer, I feel like everybody's looking for their next hidden genius. But I kind of think if you just take enough photographs, you get these kind of images together, no matter what, just from shooting enough.
So is the work, I think you said this already, but all of these are from the same photographer?
Yeah.
Oh.
And I can place some things together, but not enough to I did some efforts to actually find the person, enough to make me feel not guilty about this, but not I'm not going to go really track them down just because I think they're better with the mystery. And part of it is like I feel like why I'm attracted to it is like I want to have these experiences as well, and I'm kind of trying to live vicariously through them. And so this is just a little bit more than your normal travel photographs. They definitely have an eye for photography, and they definitely had the experimentation of photography. But I also feel like it's not part of just something that is just they're just taking photographs.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's not like any, you know, any pile of photos you're gonna want to go to where they've been. You don't necessarily want to live vicariously through someone's photos. They've gotta be attractive in some way or like draw you in some way.
Right.
And
Um,
yeah, I can see like what you're like the photographer's eye, definitely there's something there.
right. And something that I experienced when I've archived other photographers' estates and their work is that at least with some of them I've known enough so that I can start to put things together, and it's kind of like a puzzle where I can figure out through
Yeah,
history and through
that's a good
you know
picture.
whatever image I have. I know, it's not great. I can kind of figure things out, but this is a person I have. There's not enough details here to really help me out here. Um, you know, any any sheet of negatives that I make, I now instinctively have, you know, barcodes and notes and names so that almost as a way that if this happens to me in the future after I've passed, that people at least will figure out, exactly who I was with and photographing. And, I try to be extra, extra careful with giving people all of the information kind of as and uh so that somebody like me in the future isn't just claiming their own photographs. Something else that I've kind of noticed in these, and a lot of these I've printed, and I wish I could call them my own, and there's almost a part of me where it's like, hey, people wouldn't really know if this was my photograph or not, but I'm not going to do that. But I've made really nice prints of some of these, um, and I've given them out as gifts. But uh,
So
it's
this is your alter ego. This is
yeah,
your alter ego.
exactly.
Yeah, that's kind of I like that concept. It's kind of cool. It's
And there's
certainly
definitely
it's certainly respectful of the other photographer, I feel like, in
right,
my
and
opinion.
and there's definitely images in here that I've come across where I wouldn't do that as a photographer. Like, an image like this, um,
Yeah,
I don't think I would feel comfortable photographing that. Um,
but they got it. Ah,
You
yeah,
know,
this,
that blockbuster, sorry to interrupt, that
yeah.
blockbuster photo, like, I was like, what the fuck? Like, come on. And then I'm looking at it, I'm like, those signs in the window,
Right.
like, um, it just makes the picture.
I know the life after late fees. And, and,
Welcome
and,
to.
and I gotta say, like, something that's interesting is that there's a lot of stuff in here where, there's 2002, 2003 is mainly most of the photographs. And that would have been sophomore, junior year for me. And that would have been, a time in America where I'd be like, hey, there was a lot going on, and this was the culture and all of that I think about 20 years later. But it's this blockbuster photograph, I gotta say, is one of the few where I can go, that's from a previous era. Like,
Yeah.
other than the pictures of the Giants, I was looking and it was like, all right, JT Snow, was what years in the Giants? I just really love this
No
picture of
idea.
like the hat right at the.
Yeah.
I actually used this as my Christmas card last year. Or the year before, just previous Christmas, yeah.
Brian, we need to wrap up in a minute.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, maybe give us some final slot of.
As I said, there's a lot of photographs in here where it's like, I wouldn't do that as a photographer, but
Wow.
it's just kind of the very basics,
There
not
he
enough.
is.
Yeah. But again, the face is covered. I can't really tell the whole much
Yeah.
about them.
Yeah. But yeah, it's interesting that you have this alter ego photographer out running around out there, taking pictures you wouldn't take, but you can appreciate.
Right.
Like that's a hell of a picture.
Isn't that great?
Yeah.
And it's one of those on the roll I could tell, like, I don't think people, the photographer would have really seen that picture.
Wow.
So if you know who this person is, don't tell them about it, because I still want to use these, but
Yeah, there's a lot more Christmas
gonna be
cards in
more.
there.
Yeah, exactly.
Great. Thank you, Brian. Man, what a concept.
Yeah.
Yeah. I should say it's in addition to being the master of moods, Brian is the king of concepts.
Yeah, I know. When you signed up, I was like, ooh, I can't wait.
Oh, thank you. Makes me feel good.
Yeah, next time Brian hosts a show and tell, make sure you're there. It's
right.
It's always exciting.
I'm gonna come up with something weird.
There's open months for which you can sign up.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna get to thinking.
Okay, moving right along to Kat. Yes.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, I'm Kat. This is my mom, Mary Lee. Hi. And let's see, I'm gonna start sharing before I go into anything. Share slideshow. Okay, can everyone see it?
Yep.
Yes.
Great. Yeah, I had gone to, I think, the opening night for Raymond Cooper's Archives and loved it. It was an amazing show. My mom's gonna come with me on Friday to the talk. But as I was going through, it really got me thinking about a project I had done like 7 years back, which was a family archive project that kind of ended up being a combination of work that I also made when I was in college. The summer, I found a bag of film in my mom's fridge the second year, my summer after my dad had died. And it was a time where my parents had been divorced and we had already like sold all of his belongings in an estate sale, but me and my sisters couldn't keep anymore. And so I think I was just reevaluating my mom's house in a similar way. And I noticed a bag that had just been in the back of the fridge for as long as I could remember. And I had just taken my first analog film class. So I was finally able to like recognize what was in this bag that had been there my whole childhood. And it was about like 15-20 rolls of film that were undeveloped.
Wow.
And my mom shared with me that they were pictures from my childhood about 15 years previous, and they were undeveloped. And it was at a time where my parents were getting a divorce, and the film just kind of kept piling up, and between a divorce and the expenses of developing, she just never got it developed. So I kind of took it upon myself to bring it with me when I went back to school the next year. And I learned how to develop color and 35 millimeter film by developing all of this old film that had been sitting in the back of the fridge, which
How brave of you.
it seems brave now, but looking back, it also feels reckless just a little bit. I think part of me felt like, if it didn't work out, there was nothing to lose. But I do remember my hands being very sweaty trying to like load the film. The first time I was in like the loading room, because I'd been working with, I think, medium format the year before, and in a class that was specifically around black and white photography. Do
Do you want to say who's in the picture?
Oh yeah, sure. Thanks, Mom. So a lot of the photos ended up being photos my mom took. The man on the left is my father. It's me and my two sisters, and then my mom's father, my grandfather, who I call Pop.
And Kat's the one with the backward baseball hat on. So
Things never change.
in the background.
Let's see. Yeah. So, something that was also special about these rolls of film that I found was there were a handful of rolls that were disposable cameras that my mom had given me and my sisters growing up. So it was a really special experience because I was just like thinking I was becoming a photographer and like learning how to take pictures. And it turns out there were pictures I had taken as a kid 15 years ago. And that was something
Wow.
that was really special to find. And it was also just a very intense time because I was 20 and my dad had died from a long experience with cancer. So I think it was, I don't know, it was a very fortunate time thing, I think, because it really, finding these photos was something that really helped me process the experience that me and my family had gone through just like a couple months beforehand. So I continued, I was in a semester-long class in college that we focused on developing a semester-long project. So I just decided to use that time to develop all these color film rolls and digitize them and collected this small little family archive. It's one of my photos.
Yeah.
I-
Wow, these
I
are
love-
stunning.
think, yeah, most of them are her, and I love a good finger in a photo too. So I found a lot of them on my disposable camera roll, and I still do that with my phone photos. So some things don't change. The final piece, I had to do a senior thesis in school, and I ended up using those photos, and some photos I was taking too during like a year. And part of the project, I also ended up collecting more family archives, and part of that process was digitizing mini DV tapes. I know this is a photo collective, but something I thought that was cool that I wanted to share was I ended up projecting a looped video. I ended up finding that was video that my dad had recorded himself. And I put it specifically projected in a way in the gallery where when you had to walk through the rest of the gallery, you had to walk through the light, which I don't know about anyone else here, but I find that when I go to installations and art spaces, I'm always accidentally going the wrong way, or like I'm not touching, like you're not supposed to touch, and things are not very, like not always tangible. So I thought it'd be fun to play with that. And it turns out people really get nervous when there's like projection and light that you have to do, but you have to do it to get into all the way to the other end. There was actually another gallery show in it. A dear friend of mine who also lost his dad the same year had his photos up. He's on this call. His name is John. He's amazing.
Really
Yeah,
like that. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
thank you. Yeah, I think
Tell them about the little kids.
oh yeah, so I did notice there were kids that just automatically went up and just started playing with the light. And you could see, like, when you watch people move through a gallery space, right? Like you could see people kind of collecting and watching it, but adults were so hesitant to walk through. And then you have these kids who just come up and are just totally aware of the content of the gallery space and like the weight of grief that comes with context. And just, it couldn't have been more appropriate for, I think, the themes that I was finding in my work. And the project also evolved too, because as I was creating this family archive, my mom's dad's health started failing. And he lived in an area that was closer to my school. So I ended up spending like a lot of time with him, which also included being a caretaker for him. So I found that the experience really mirrored my experience with my dad, watching my mom go through something. And I find that when I don't know what to do in moments, I think sometimes photographing is an instinct for me. It's just a reflex. And yeah, this is my grandfather. It's one of those moments where how do I say, he had started progressing into dementia. And I think I learned as a photographer in these moments, before the dementia had like really took hold and he was still more of himself, I was taking photos around his place constantly because I had just been like learning how to use cameras in school. But the further he progressed in his dementia, it got harder to take photos in the same way when he realized he wasn't like cognitively there. And I think this is one of those moments where I don't like he was very stoic as like a person before the dementia. He was very much like he worked on cars his whole life. He didn't really show emotion. And when he grabbed my arm in this way, it was like the first time he had really shown emotion to me physically like this. So I almost didn't take the photo, but I'm glad I did.
I'm glad you did.
Oh, thank you. But I think a lot of this project, I ended up thinking a lot about like the ethics of like sharing other people's work, like my mom's photographs, and also like the divorce I know was like really hard for her. So it was a very much a personal experience for her. And I wanted to also respect like my grandfather's consent, even if he couldn't consent to photos being taken. So yeah, it was just like a very big learning experience. My favorite photo. All the photos I shot were digital, which I thought would be like an intentional like kind of balancing of the past and present at the time. This is the last photo of this slide. This is one my mom took, which is, yeah. I think I ended the show with this because it's just, I think it's a stunning photo, Mom. Thanks. Thank you. So, how am I on time, by the way?
You're really good. Yeah, Kat, thank you so much. I think yeah, we need to get our breath.
Okay.
A little
Sorry.
bit,
I know it's a very intense project.
but I think absolutely lovely and absolutely germane to the topic of how, photography connects us to our past and then can help us deal with the present. And it's something that we learned with the Raymond Cooper project because we were, again, in the past of going through Mr. Cooper's archive, but also we were communicating with Asia Cooper, Mr. Cooper's daughter, and it was, frankly, was a relief to have a connection in the present, to have a human connection in the present, to just to ground the project a little bit, so it wasn't just this digging through some boxes of somebody we didn't know.
Yeah.
And I feel like that discovery of the film in the back of the fridge and at the point where you knew what that was, like you knew you could recognize the gold mine when you saw it. Can
Even
you
though
tell us a
it had
little?
been there. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, can you tell us a little more about that experience?
Yeah, I mean, I think I really related when you were talking about how you went through the Raymond Cooper archives of just like I knew it was my life and my childhood, but I didn't remember a lot of those photos just from that age. And so I was beginning to like piece together like the memories and the moments and the context myself. But then I went back to my mom to get more context, and she provided so much more like meaning and stories to it. And also I think the older I got, there was just like more of a nuanced layer as like my parents were going through a divorce too. And
it was a great help to me because it was always my intention. It was never my intention to not develop them. All the roles of film. I did a lot of film work. Until recently, I've always done a lot of photography. And it was just such, like Kat said, it was a difficult time. Plus, I pretty much had the 3 kids on my own most of the time, and your time gets sucked up by children and work. I was working and kids, and so the roles of film were there. I wasn't pressed to develop them because I thought it would bring up too much emotion. But so when Kat offered to take them, I was relieved, and I thought, yay, yay, finally, they're going to get developed. I just couldn't bring myself to do it. And there were some, I mean, there's gold mines, but there were so many delightful discoveries and trips that we went to Disneyland, and there was a whole roll of Disneyland film of these little, my kids in Disneyland at 4 and 2 or 3 and 5, and so it was fabulous, and enough time had passed so that it wasn't as painful, and all of the context had changed. So much had changed. Dad being gone, and just everything so different than it was. It just shows you how life can really change, all the way around and not be what you expected it to be. So when some of the pictures are just fabulous, just so much fun to see. And I had, for lack of a better word, divorced myself from the taking of them. They weren't my pictures anymore. They were Kat's, they were ours, they were family pictures. And it was really fun.
I also want to say that I think being able to see my mom's work and like find what I thought like were beautiful and valuable and like lovely photos to be able to have. I don't know if we would have seen them in the same way if they had just been developed and put into a photo album years prior. So like the finding and the processing was really an integral part to it. But I also just think you're an amazing photographer. So to be able to find it on my own, I know you roll your eyes, but to be able to find meaning myself and to tell her that she is an amazing photographer in a way that she hasn't put herself out there, and to put her work out there too it's been a very lovely experience to kind of center her in it too.
Thank you.
It's so, well, first of all, like, thank you for sharing this. It's a really beautiful, both heartbreaking and heartwarming, project. And it is, yeah, it's like so in line with this theme. But what I also think is so fascinating about tonight is also Brian's work in concert with this work. The found photographs, but you found photographs that belonged, to your family, but they were mystery, and you were discovering them just like Brian was discovering the mystery man's. It's just such a serendipitous like relationship between everyone's work who's showing tonight.
Yes. I also feel like I need to mention, I almost didn't sign up for the show and tell, but then I noticed the date, and tomorrow is the 9-year anniversary of my dad passing. So it just felt kind of like kismet, like the time to do it. It was just like it was eerie enough where I was like, might as well. It feels like a sign.
No, we're so glad. Yeah, we're so glad that you participated.
Yeah.
Just really, really, really rewarding. So Kat, thank you so much for sharing. Yeah, had a big impact.
Thank you.
And next is Beatrice.
Yes, hi.
Hi, Beatrice. Quick plug for Beatrice, teaching a workshop coming up. So yeah, jump in there. Beatrice's workshops always sell out. So jump in and sign up if you're interested.
Yeah, I think there's a few spots left in this one.
For
And
the
yeah,
moment.
right. Reach out if you have any questions too. Cool. It's okay. So, oh my gosh. I actually haven't done Zoom in a while either. How do I share my screen? Oh, right. Here we go. Used to WebEx actually. Okay. Here we go. So can you see?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. So I'm just going to keep it like this and I'll be short. I just selected a few images and so I am also by academic training an archivist and like Brian, I have worked with artists' estates and in libraries and archives as well. And currently I'm a digital asset manager. So this is all very close to home. As you'll see though, I have terrible file naming conventions on these, but you know, it's always a work in progress for my personal stuff. I do
I
have
should mention that
That makes me
Beatrice was
feel
a
better.
Beatrice
Yeah.
was a consultant on the Raymond Cooper project and gave us really invaluable guidance.
Actually,
on that
very,
project.
very helpful. Thank you,
Yeah,
Jen.
we would not have been able to do it without that.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I'm so glad to hear. Yeah, just a wonderful exhibition. I'm looking forward to going to the talk on Friday, especially. So yeah, what I literally did was dove into my Dropbox for this. I saw there was a spot available and went into one of the things about not having, folders and files like totally named, certain information there, but I was just like, ooh, what is this 6001? And so, I go in, I'm like, wow, I know what everything is, of course. So if I'm to go back, I can definitely add all that information later. But that said, this is sort of a mini kind of like meta archive tour here, just of my personal work. This photo I could probably just talk about the whole time, but I really started shooting black and white film when that was the summer before I started college in 2005. And this photo here is shot with probably one of those first rolls I had. This is my college dorm wall corner. My bed is right below there. You can't see it. So this is how, this was like, right. I had just signed up for Facebook, but we still had real walls. This is how I chose to decorate the walls above my bed. And it is literally an archive of my work as well as my interests. And it is a photo that I took on film. Like these are paintings from high school that I brought. I was very into fashion photography. These canvases, I know I have one of them somewhere at my mom's. I don't know necessarily where the other ones are. This poster of Paris, I know that's like a famous Peter Turnley photo. I didn't take his class. I did do a darkroom course at Parsons School of Design. That's where I actually learned to develop my first roll of film. And you'll see over here on the right, these prints I made in Paris, the very first roll of film I ever developed, first prints I ever made right here on this wall. And, at the time developing film was magical to me. And, but, when I actually made the prints, I felt like, oh, I don't really think these are that good or, but it's just interesting to see them in this context of how I chose to kind of like assemble my inspiration and identity above my college dorm room bed. And this kind of grid here, I would always go in San Francisco. I also worked at a fancy gym downtown called Equinox in the summers, Brian. I would go to Brooks Photography, I think on Kearny Street. And I would be very specific about having my stuff printed with borders. I wasn't making my own prints most of the time because I didn't have darkroom access, but I made this little grid of my, just like kind of favorite photos from maybe the previous year and assembled this little grid here. This is some like fashion work I did for a friend. This is Polaroid. It's like printed with a inkjet printer, and these to posters here, I think I went to MoMA the first week that college started, like the week before like classes even began. I tried to get in with my SF MoMA, this is in New York. I tried to get in with my SF MoMA membership card, and they wouldn't let me in. Because I didn't realize they were different institutions, but I bought this Andy Warhol and Roy Lichtenstein poster at the store there because I wanted to have some posters for my wall.
Beatrice, next time try your EPCO membership card. They'll like.
Oh, okay.
Oh
great.
yeah,
Yeah.
they'll give you a big
Thank you.
discount too.
Yeah, and you can get backstage as well.
Oh, wonderful. Okay. I'll
Yeah.
keep that in mind. So yeah, I mean, it's so interesting looking back and remembering that I was so, keen on kind of documenting my identity and constructing that for myself. And then I'm just gonna go through, I just have like, I don't know, just a few. I won't talk about all of them. But this is I tried to make I was very obsessed with the Paris subway map when I studied abroad, and I brought it home and I tried to do this kind of like abstract art piece. I did a roll of film in black and white and color, and I made an artist's book, which I still have. And I don't know where I got the idea, honestly, but I photographed the little map that you put in this little pocket here with the monthly subway pass, and it folds up. And this is my student card. And I had made this little artist book, and I had forgotten about it until recently when I was back at my mom's. And I'm moving right now as well, so I'm kind of going through stuff. And I have all my film scanned though from this time. And I just, think it was interesting that I was thinking about that at that age, at the age of 18. And I last year recently kind of made my first zine, which was a similar format to this sort of, fold out book. So, and then this is another sort of like wall portrait. I guess I, have like a fair number of these, but I had really forgotten about this one. And again, this is, I think, the summer after I graduated college. But again, I've printed out some photos. These are not actual gelatin silver darkroom prints, but they are probably from Walgreens. I only had enough money to print at Walgreens, and these are like my scans printed out on the wall of, I think that just the apartment I was living in at the time in the East Village. But you'll notice on the dresser, I have several film cameras. There's a Holga fisheye K1000 and just a regular or a fisheye lomography, and then Holga over here. And just sort of, interesting to me to look back at what I thought was important to document about myself, and also the objects that I had. And then this is, I think, something I took freshman year of college, just walking around the street. I always had a, K1000. I was fascinated by living in New York, totally new to me, living in a city. This roof of an apartment in the East Village I was living in. Kind of ironic how there's snow on a barbecue, right? Not exactly barbecue time. I had totally forgotten about this image of this kind of bus getting towed in the middle of winter on Bowery. I was probably walking to work and snapped that. Here's just a frog. Some point, maybe San Gennaro Festival in Little Italy. But I really got up close to that frog. It wasn't mine. Someone was carrying it, and then just the, shape of this umbrella without a handle on the ground, the surreal quality of that kind of stood out to me looking back. And this is double exposure, of course, a vintage map of San Francisco with some blossoms from Fort Greene actually layered over it. And so I think, I can't remember if this was intentional or a mistake, but I've always thought about this one as like the branches on the trees kind of connect to the, streets and highways and everything. on the map, which is interesting to me. And then this similarly, same rule of film, I believe, but just like roads and plants, right? So you have the tire, and then the tulips and daffodils, which we're seeing right now here. And then this is from Mykonos. Yeah, just think a kind of a funny photo that I think now looking back reminds me of Elliot Erwitt a little bit, with these mannequins and this dog sort of just seated in a fountain, a little bit awkwardly. So
Yeah.
so that's it.
It's totally great.
Thank you.
Beatrice, out of this set, which was the most surprising to you? Which was the one that brought you back in the past and
Yeah,
surprised you?
this bus, I am pretty sure. Yeah, this is because some of these photos, like I've looked back at them here and there a bunch of times over the years, and I had completely forgotten about this one. And I think it surprised me that I caught that moment, and it's something you don't usually see, right? A bus
Mhm.
being towed at, it's just like such a large, like, automobile, right? So, and kind of wonder what the story behind that was too, like, were the kids on it going to school when this happened, and
It's so strange too. Like when I first saw it, I was like, why is that bus in the air? Did it like go over a giant bump or something? And then I
That's what
noticed
I
it was
thought
being
too.
towed. And then there's the car behind it with a wheel that almost looks like it's like a teeny tiny wheel on the bus. But it's such a weird, wonderful photograph.
Thank you.
And were there any, like, we've looked at Kat showed us her set, which was this really interesting web of emotions. And were there emotional connections as you were going back through these old photos, maybe that you weren't expecting?
Well, yeah, with these ones, this is like I had totally forgotten about this little book project, and it kind of made me realize a little bit, like, the continuity of my like in my work, like that there really is continuity where I didn't think about that before. And these are all like sort of my archive of my photography. There isn't a lot of imagery of people. It's mostly just my kind of street photography, nature photography. But I will say that I was very, very surprised to remember this little book project, this little artist book project.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. Beatrice, the image that you have up here, earlier when you went through the first time, you also lingered on this image. And, to be honest, this is a fairly conventional image, but obviously it has tremendous resonance for you, has emotional resonance. And it's a really nice example of how these images can connect us through the past, through the future. We're thinking about, oh, who am I right now? And who was I then? What are the connections? And this, it's just so evocative how this photograph is facilitating that. And an effective photograph does not always, and not to say anything bad about this photograph, Beatrice, but an effective photograph does not always have to be in focus, does not always have to be all those things that maybe, you read about what a photograph should be. But we've seen many photographs tonight that connect us in different ways. bring up emotions in different ways. And this is a really nice example.
Oh, thank you.
So
Yeah.
yeah, thank you so
Yeah,
much.
Yeah.
So,
I- I- I was just-
Beatrice, oh,
Oh, I was just gonna say, and just like equally kind of this one, just the continuity between like my wall here, and the change, you know, but yeah, and this book thing, it was like a whole series. They're all like glued together in the book, so it's like variations on this kind of exact
Yeah.
thing.
so
Yeah.
I have a question. I'm in a camera club and submit photos for competitions and all that. And my problem usually is to come up with a good title and to name an image. And a lot of times I don't want to name it. I want the person that sees the image to figure it out on their own. How do you, dear Beatrice, how do you think about titles like that truck, that school bus, whatever? Like, how would you title something like that?
Oh, you know, that's a really good question. I don't, maybe someone else has other ideas. I don't know. I feel like I don't know. I'm not very good at thinking of titles. Sometimes they come to me, and sometimes I feel like kind of forced to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Stefan, how would you title it?
Hallelujah. Thank you.
Yeah. Stefan, how would you title it?
Ass backwards.
Ah.
Sorry, I couldn't think of it.
That's an uplifting title, isn't it?
Yeah,
uplifting.
Schools
yeah,
Out.
whatever, I
Schools
don't
Out
know.
Schools Out is a good one, John.
Mhm.
Oh yes,
Yeah.
yes.
I believe someone also said levitating at some point.
Oh yes, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Oh,
We should move on and wrap up. Beatrice, thank you so much.
You're
Um,
very welcome. Thank you to
Yeah.
whoever, had decided they couldn't make it.
Thank you, everybody. Sorry, Vince, I'm swooping in here. This was
Swoop away.
just simply fantastic, as always. Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of speechless. Actually, it really was like a very meaningful show and tell for, very personal for everyone. And I really feel like that it came through to us as the viewers. So just simply fantastic.
That's the amazing thing about show and tells. Like, it's always incredible somehow. And this one
I
was
know it's
Yeah.
they're so great. And I almost feel like now that we're doing them every other month, it's like, oh, it's so nice to be here and see work. But in light of that, I did put the sign up link in the chat, but I'm going to put it in there one more time at the bottom. Our next show and tell is in June. It is our annual film swap hosted by Anita. And if you don't know, how that works, basically you partner up. Oh, I thought I put the info link on that. I didn't. I will. You partner up with someone who wants to shoot the same format. You agree on the format and then color black and white. And then you shoot your roll and then you swap with your partner and shoot on top of their roll and they shoot on top of your roll and you see what happens. And it is a really super fun one. So that's June 4th. Get in on it early. It takes a while. So I'll be sure to put that link onto the sign up sheet that allows you to partner up with someone. And then we've got August, October, and December. So Brian, pick your month. Anyway, if any of you have ideas for a theme to host one of these, you are welcome to sign up. Actually, we have one for August, which is gear sale finds. That has become an annual show and tell as well. People who find things at our annual gear sale, make work with that. So, so actually we've got October and December. Anyway, great to see you all. And thanks to all of you who have not come to a show and tell before. It's really great to have you here. And we love it. The more, the merrier. And I think that's it. Anything else, Anita, Vince? Anyone else? All right. Good night. Thanks, everybody. Oh, Ernie, you got the update. I can't do it. Ah!